Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and giants of the world. Today we have our good friend Tim Kirby back with us, discussing very many interesting topics, especially considering that now anybody who's conservative and isn't hasn't bought into the woke agenda can come to conservative land, Russia, at an expedited as an expedited process. The list dropped 42 countries.
Why, hello there. Come hither, boys and girls, and hear the magical tale of the magic monetary theory. That's right. You no longer have to worry about all that pesky gold and silver to buy what you want. Just print, print, print. And when Marco Polo traveled to ancient China in the 1200s, the Mongol Khans of China showed him their magic monetary theory, where they had pure fiat paper money, and they could just print whatever they needed for whatever they wanted to buy. But alas, even that story had a dark ending. For the magic monetary theory unleashed the twin beasts, the tidal wave of debt ridden by the beast of inflation. And when Marco Polo returned to China 20 years later, there were no Mongol Khans of China anymore. China had just gone through a vicious civil war that was sponsored by a total economic collapse. Let's fast forward 800 years. And the modern monetary theory is all the rage in the Western leadership. That's right, you no longer have to worry about debt. Debt no longer matters. No, just print, print, print all you need. But yet, the twin beasts are back. The tsunami of debt swallows up whole nations, causing defaults, causing collapses in currency, destroying people, destroying their lives. The beast of inflation swallows up your hard-earned wealth. The products that cost $126 back in 22 now cost well over $400 in 24. That's right, hyperinflation is here. What do you do to save your hard-earned wealth? Where do you go? You go to gold, not paper gold, physical gold. And you don't keep that gold in the United States, where in 1932 the government confiscated gold. It'll do it again. You don't keep it in Western Europe that's collapsing before our very eyes. Where do you go? What do? You come to exitstrategy.world, the company that's going to help you find the safe haven for your gold and your well-being. Exitstrategy.world, the saviors in this dark fairy tale.
Uh, Not quite sure why they added Mauritania, or was it Mauritania? Um,
I didn't see,
yeah,
but
the islands north. There's a whole confederation, like 1,000 islands north of Australia.
would that well when I think of Indonesia, or do you mean like the Marshall Islands or something like that, or
Northeast of Indonesia. It's
the
yeah.
Philippines?
No, no, no. It's a giant territory of islands. It's actually like four nations in the confederation, and they're all. I
Oh,
mean,
I
they're
see.
they're tiny islands. I think the
Well, you
biggest
know
part.
what, Stas, I play this game with my son where we try to like recognize world flags, and I'll tell you what, the islands of the Pacific Ocean are the hardest. The flags have like no character, they're random, and you're like, is that Virabidi or Tuvalu or whatever? It's
Oh
very
yeah, yeah.
difficult. The
That,
only
that's
flag I can remember is Samoa because I used to have this one video game that had a Samoan flag in it. So that one's kind of burnt in my memory. All the other ones I don't know, and I just can't remember them.
biggest people in the world, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you've never ran into a Samoan. And they don't work out, and their arms, I mean, I
Mm.
lift and I'm pretty strong, and their arms are like twice the size of mine. And they
Well,
don't
yeah, I have
lift.
to say,
They
yeah,
just naturally.
well, the Samoans have a proud history of being very good at rugby, American football, and pro wrestling. So yeah, they apply their strength quite well. So,
I served in one unit. We had the younger brother of, I think it was the Undertaker, or one of the, oh,
yeah,
the barbarian.
yeah,
And Sergeant Lutuli had arms. I mean, okay, arms like this, right?
yeah.
And he never worked out. And he, as he put it, sir, I'm the runt of the family.
Oh, I see.
You know,
Yeah.
like crap. Yeah.
Well, there must have been some tough times in the history of Samoa that made guys tough there. So yeah.
There's like, oh, we eat lots of potatoes. Like, so do
Oh,
the
yeah,
Irish, but the Irish don't look like you.
yeah, yeah.
I read these articles in the U.S. that Vladimir Vladimirovich or someone in his government is building a village for conservative Americans and Canadians
Oh,
somewhere in the boonies far from Moscow.
well, yeah. There are reports in quotes that are mostly with AI generated and stock images that say that Putin is trying to build some sort of Christian fascist camp for Westerners. Actually, the person who's trying to do that is me, and I'm somewhat succeeding at it. I say somewhat because only a few people have joined, but hey, we're building houses. The construction has already started, and it's open to anyone. The whole reason I did this is because in the recent past, it was basically impossible for Western people to move to Russia unless they were married to a Russian citizen. But what happens if you're already married and have kids? Then you essentially couldn't immigrate to Russia. Now, with the new policies laid down in the presidential orders that I also had a hand in working on myself, have been approved, which is still very surprising to me. I'm stunned that it actually happened. Now, this village thing is maybe a little less necessary, but still a very good option for people
Yeah,
to live
why,
here
why
and
not?
have neighbors they know. Because man, if you try to move to Russia and you move to like the middle of nowhere where you don't know anyone, unless you're good at learning languages, you're going to encounter a lot of problems. And so the American Village offers, let's just say, some collective bargaining opportunities. It offers me to be able to sort of advocate for people, especially when it comes to the schooling system. And most importantly, no matter what, you may be allowed to immigrate to Russia, but you have to have a place to live in Russia in order to immigrate here. And it's very hard to find a rental place that you can actually immigrate to.
Yeah, the by the way, even if you don't have a Russian relative, you used to before this law, you could get re go straight to citizenship even if you were labeled as a carrier of the Russian language, which you do take an exam for. But you've got to be pretty
Yeah.
damn fluent for that. So it's not one of those, I took a semester of Russian and, here we go.
Well, yeah, that doesn't really apply to your average Western foreigner. That's
No,
only for
no.
like people who left the Soviet Union and they spoke to their kids in Russian, so they're native speakers. If you're not a native speaker, that doesn't apply to you. Like you can't have any accent whatsoever. So that even though I speak Russian very well, I've worked in the Russian media for more than a decade. I can go on radio talk shows and all this stuff. I wouldn't qualify for that, for example.
They had actually they had quite a few villages of old believers who were moving out of Brazil, out of Argentina, moving back to Russia, and they were because they speak Russian in their villages, even though
Yeah.
they some of them have been there for well over 100 years.
And
Uh,
well, you would know better, but from what I've been told, they also speak it in a little bit of an interesting and weird way, but still a native way.
well, yeah, well, it's an older dialect because languages do change over time,
Yeah.
and theirs don't because they're
Yeah.
isolated and they've kept the old language. So it's Russian of about 120 years ago.
Is it
So
very horosho dobro to like that? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
excuse me.
But anyways, so yeah, with this whole American Village thing, it's sort of my my big sort of I don't know, one of my big achievements in life. And there's plenty of spots left if people want to buy. I have everything, all the agreements till the end of 2024. Things should continue into 2025, but as you know, Stas, Russia is not a country where everything is guaranteed. Tomorrow is always a little bit of a mystery, and yeah, but the one thing that I would say is guaranteed is the fact that the government has rejected the woke agenda.
Yeah.
We've had the LGBT ban. They're working on attacking the sort of child-free propaganda movement, and so on and so forth. On every sort of front against some of the insanity of the modern world we're in, the government has started to put down policies to fight against that. So the one thing Russia does offer and is going to offer for not just the foreseeable future, but for the future, is a sort of one-way ticket to escape woke nutsiness. There are some things about Russia that Western foreigners don't like. There are definitely some frustrations. It is not the easiest country to immigrate to. No matter what the presidential order says, it is not the easiest, but it is a one-stop shop to live a non-woke lifestyle. And gosh darn it, is that a good feeling?
So if somebody wants to get more information on the whole, first of all, when we say when the Western media says it's out there in the middle of nowhere, it's about 80 kilometers west of Moscow. And for
Well,
those that
yeah.
are kilometer challenged, that would be like 48 miles,
Oh, so that's one of their things is they say it's in the middle
42
of
miles.
nowhere. That's one of their little arguments. How cute.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, you're a
Wow,
government
that's
official if you didn't know that.
yeah. Well, see, but you know what, Stas? I have to say that that actually meets up with some of the Western stereotypes of Russia because a lot of people who approach me about moving to Russia, they don't understand how built up Russia is, especially around Moscow. Like I've had people say, "Well, I want to live on a minimum of 5 acres of land, but I will." At an absolute maximum drive an hour to get downtown. Like, okay.
Sorry.
I'm like, yeah. So do you have $15 million to spend on that land? Not, like though that doesn't exist. It's like, does that exist? Could you even for $100 million buy that around New York? Maybe. I don't know. So yeah. So the thing is with the other thing too is as I've talked to a lot of people because this project I didn't just kind of pull out of my butt one day. I talked to a lot of people. One thing about Westerners is English speaking Westerners, I should say, the Anglo-Saxon world. People like to live in houses. That
Yep.
is universal. People like Russia, but they don't like the idea of living in a commie block, crappy apartment. Okay. They want to live in a house. And to live in a house in a pleasant environment, you can't be next to Moscow. Today, I was just in a place called Khimki. And if you know what Khimki's like, Stas, it is an asphalt nightmare. It was kind of one of the first sort of suburbs built well, it existed before the Yeltsin era, but it was built up during the Yeltsin era. And it is ugly. It is not the place that most people would want to invest large sums of money to live in and be surrounded by only traffic, only asphalt, only high rises. Whereas with the American Village, it's in the historic county of Istra. It's not super crowded. It's gorgeous, but there's enough people to have nice things and get your groceries delivered to your door and all this other stuff. Like my house is in the woods around Chekhov, and yet I can get stuff delivered. You know what I mean? I can get a pizza delivered any time of the day I want. So that nice balance between urban and rural, I think, is what a lot of people want, and that's why we chose to do this. Also, if you think this might be a little expensive, the American Village, if it was inside of Moscow, holy crap, would it be expensive? So part of it is pricing.
Well, I do live in my own house, and I'm about 15, 16 kilometers from Moscow. But
Yeah.
I did build it about 10 years ago, so that's
Well,
why I
you see,
feel a
that's
little
the thing.
more.
You got in there before. You got in at the right time. Just like my house, I was lucky that at the time I finished a project. I had then, however many years ago, almost 10 years ago now, I had 1 million rubles in the bank and I saw this crappy house with like no plumbing, the worst electricity on the just nothing, no heating, no nothing, but it was walking distance to a train station, a major train station, and it was 1,000 rubles. And I was like, it is in a gorgeous place. It is walkable. I'm doing it, and I have no regrets. I can't even imagine how much buying that would cost today. If I
All
bought
right.
it for 1 million rubles, it'd probably cost 4 million now,
Yeah,
5
yeah.
million maybe for that kind of location.
Well,
So a lot of it is, coming here at the right time. Unfortunately, now Russia has become officially, I forget what it was, whether it was the International Monetary Fund or S&P or whatever, has sort of labeled Russia as being an expensive country, and it is. A lot of
um,
people they should have came when I did, when Russia was cheap. Now
wait,
it's not super
wait.
cheap anymore.
Once you get far enough out from the big cities, Russia is not expensive, unless you go to a far
Yeah,
north where everything has to be imported. Now, if you want to live in a metropolitan big area, yeah, it's not that cheap. Now, if you
well,
have
yeah.
an income from outside of Russia that you can transfer in, that's a good income. It becomes quite affordable. But then you got issues with sanctions.
Well, yeah, well, well, one of the things, yeah, we did things with sanctions, but my buddy Kevin, who's good with money transfers, he can get around all that legally. Don't worry about it. If you need to transfer money, talk to me. I'll send you over to Kevin. But anyways, the one thing too that a lot of people don't sort of understand about Russia is until recently, it's been basically, from what I've heard from people, it is a nightmare to get through the migration services anywhere but Moscow, St. Petersburg, and the two sort of oblasts that are around them. Everywhere else is just a freaking nightmare. Nizhny Novgorod is becoming one of the good places where you can move to. Because a lot of people are like, well, Tim, it's dumb. Why should I go to your stupid American village when I could go to Siberia and live in a beautiful valley? Okay, try getting through the migration bureaucracy, not speaking Russian in some sort of more isolated place in Siberia, like the Tiva Republic or whatever. Yeah, good fucking luck. You're not going to be able to do it. And the other thing too is people, they have this sort of dream of Russia, which is like mountains and I don't know, bears and shit. But when push comes to shove, and they start thinking about school, hospitals, work, this, that, and the other, they all migrate back to more or less Moscow, St. Petersburg, anyways. So Nizhny Novgorod is a new frontier in this brilliant Russian pro-immigration world, but I would be very hesitant for a lot of people to try stuff like, especially moving to Sevastopol. That, that's that is quite an endeavor at this
Well,
point.
Sevastopol is a military city, first and
That's
foremost.
why.
But Crimea actually has quite a few Americans that I know living not in Sevastopol for the most part. They're living in other cities.
Mhm.
But well, it's warm. Krasnodar is also pretty warm.
Yeah. But also
Yekaterinburg,
Krasnodar has like the worst migration services. So that's one of the things is it's kind of down south is more unruly and it's frustrating. Like the person I just mentioned, Kevin, he lives in the Crimea and he can tell some tales about just how much more difficult it was for him to immigrate to the Crimea, even though he has the right to do so, being married to a Russian citizen. It was quite an adventure. And so again, it's kind of this thing like if they're hardcore, like if there's someone like a guy I know kind of, and I really enjoy his work. His name is Dan Castle. He's an American of Mexican origin, and he moved out to by somewhere by like Lake Baikal, and he's married to a Russian woman. He just bought some land. He's building a house on it. Like if someone is hardcore, where they're good, ready to fight the immigration bureaucracy. They don't give a shit about hospitals and that if they get sick. They don't really worry about work too much. They'll find a way and they can, build their own house. Well, that's a different thing. Like, why do I have a house that's you can live in all year round around Moscow? Because I remodeled the thing with myself. You know what I mean? Like you have to be if you're hardcore, then you don't need things like the American Village. If you're a normal person, then you kind of need a project like the American Village to help you out.
uh, Kevin, and his last name starts with an M.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's no secret, Micheletti.
yeah,
I
he's
always
been.
say his last because the problem is I want to say it in like the most Italian way, a Micheletti, but he says it in a more American way, and I never do it right. So sorry, Kevin. So it's Kevin in Crimea. How about we do that?
Yeah, Kevin's been on my show quite several times.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm not just a friend. I'm also a client. I liquidated my life insurance that I had in
Mhm.
America, and Kevin got it sent over, and it worked. So
So I
there
need
you
to
go.
talk to Kevin. I've got crypto set up on this side, but I need somebody to be able to send it from that side. Uh,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's kind of like that. Can't do it
Yeah.
myself
Well,
for
when the
obvious
whole
reasons.
Yeah, thankfully, I pretty much liquidated most of my crypto before Binance got manipulated. So I think all in all, I lost like $40. So it wasn't the end of the world. To have like one teeny tiny piece of one Bitcoin for $40 was not a financial tragedy. So
Well, Bitcoin is ideal for transferring money. It is
yeah,
crap for trying to invest because there's absolutely
yeah,
no economic theory, policy, or any foundation whatsoever on in any cryptocurrencies.
yeah.
It's, Musk says something and farts the other day and it goes up or it goes down and whatever. There's
Well,
just
yeah, yeah, and well, there's some things, you know about war. That's your thing. I know about the media. I know a decent amount about construction in Russia. One thing I'm not going to lie and say is that I know things about investing and all that. That is not what I do. All my money's in real estate because that I've seen that I understand, and I've seen a lot of people in Russia do very well doing it, and that's what I do. Playing games of like betting on this cryptocurrency because it's going to explode and then selling it off while it's high. I can't do that. That my brain isn't wired that way. That's just a path to failure. Yeah, with that, it's just that a few people owed me money and they were like, I can like give you Bitcoin. You can like use that in Russia, man. Okay, whatever. That's where it was. It wasn't like an investment thing.
yeah, hey, don't pigeonhole me. I'm not just about war. I'm also about supply chain, logistics,
Oh,
and
and supply
procurement
chain. Okay.
and heavy industry.
All
But yeah,
right.
I
Well,
actually at one point invested about $200 into Ethereum just to
oh,
watch how it went up and down. And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
tracking it, and it took me a couple months of tracking it to come to the conclusion there's no point in tracking it because there's absolutely no rhyme or reason.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Again, like it seems like with a lot of cryptocurrencies, again, I'm not an expert, but it seems like it's kind of like a new currency comes out. If there's
Oh,
hype around it, you got to get in when the hype is going up. when it goes to a maximum, you sell, and then it's going to crash. And like with stuff like with Ethereum and Bitcoin, it's kind of more just sort of hovering where it
Yeah.
is, which is kind of a good thing. Like if you want a cryptocurrency to be an actual currency and not just some get rich quick scheme, then that's a good thing that Ethereum and Bitcoin are very stable. Awesome. They're getting closer to being what they should be. Because to be honest, I don't really even see them as currencies. They're more like a weird type of stock that rather than being a currency, in my opinion, but whatever.
Well, there's actually a new type of coin coming that's being developed by several countries and several countries called a stable coin. So
Yeah.
basically, whatever it's set at, that's what it stays at
Hmm.
to hard currencies. So you buy it at whatever rate, and there's no fluctuations.
Hmm.
So, i.e., the stable currency or the
Yeah.
stable coin. So that's something that you could put your money in, and it'll pretty much just stay the same amount. You're not going to make anything, but you're not going to lose anything.
Yeah, that's actually something I was thinking about doing a project like that. I kind of that worked out in my mind, but I never met the proper programmer to do it because I can't program that kind of thing. But I've had some ideas about that because again, cryptocurrency again, like I said, it behaves more like a stock. It doesn't really suit the whole concept of being a currency because I don't know, maybe you find it easy to use. I find it a massive pain. Like with a currency, especially when you live in Russia where transferring money is really easy, like rubles are amazingly easy to use. As soon as it's crypto, it's like, okay, open this, and then I've got to go to this panel and select it from this sort of thing, and then open this to see who's going to buy it. It's just like, holy crap. It's just so unintuitive and clunky, and I don't know. It does, like I said, it's not quite serving its purpose. If I knew
Yeah.
people with good programming backgrounds, I have some solutions in my mind, but can't do them myself.
Well, you're not using cryptocurrency in this case for transfer and cash because of, it's the avenue of choice. It's because it's the
Mhm.
avenue that still works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
unfortunate, but that's the world we live in at the moment. So
Yeah, for now. We'll see when the Kazan summit happens. The rumors are that they'll reveal the BRICS currency or whatever they're going to call it. I hope they do. I'm not quite sure that they'll do it, but that would be really nice because the BRICS currency will be something that will be very hard to stop. Um, yeah.
unfortunately, I will be shocked if that happens because India has been the spoiler in all of this.
Yeah, India's been a little bit poo-poo on it. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
India has its own reasons, plus India keeps trying to cater to every party, including the US.
Yeah.
That definitely does not want that coming out.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, they're getting more powerful, but I would say in terms of being, let's just say, infiltrated, they're definitely on the weaker side of the
Oh,
BRICS spectrum compared to Russia
yeah,
or China. So,
absolutely. Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. Absolutely right. So we'll see. We'll see. It shall be interesting what comes out of this.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah, and also one thing is I tend to look at things obviously in sort of through an American lens, where if there's a BRICS summit, there has to be some major revelation. From a Russian lens, there doesn't have to be.
No.
It could just be the summit to have the summit, and that's it. There doesn't have to be. But the American inside me is thinking, like through a Hollywood filter, where they're going to have this giant revelation. It's going to change everything. And it could just be another freaking conference. Russia likes its conferences.
So the Chinese.
Yeah.
What I'm more afraid of though is not from the Russian or the BRICS side, because remember it's the 26th, I believe, the 26th of or there's the 20. I'm sorry, 23rd of October.
Yeah.
And what do we normally have in October when we have an
Halloween?
election? Well, yes, that's the 31st. But before that, when we have elections on the 5th of November, we have the October surprise.
Oh, yeah.
And in a case like this, October surprise may be some kind of major terrorist or black swan event or anything of the sort. Uh,
Yeah. That also kind of ties up with the whole Olympic nightmare syndrome, where it's usually a lot of stuff that's bad happens during the Olympics.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean there could be. Well, to be honest, we've already seen potentially that twice Mr. Trump might not be on this planet anymore. Theoretically, that could have been a pretty potentially game-changing event in the United States. Although again, maybe. I think ultimately, if they did kill him, the status quo would win out. Sorry to be pessimistic, but
Yeah.
anyways, so who knows? There could be something else. The
Well,
whole heat up in Israel could be also part of this.
yeah. Well, there's questionable, there may have been a third attempt because at one of his rallies, there was a car found with explosives, which was then
Oh,
explained that the police were using it for practice.
uh-huh.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
practiced to
that
blow them up, but the car got found, so we couldn't really practice it. It was a live event practice, you know.
yeah, live with live explosives.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Who normally practices at the event having a car parked there with live explosives as a practice?
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard of that. That is also absolutely bizarre. Well, one thing is Trump, at least the way he speaks in public, and again, I know he speaks in public to speak to us, sending a message. He doesn't seem that concerned with his own life, and I'm not saying
Oh,
that like,
yeah,
oh, that's. I'm not saying it in a way like, oh, that's so cool. He's such a badass. I'm saying the opposite. It's kind of like, wake up, man.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Smell the coffee here.
I mean, the U.S. was literally millimeters away from a possible civil war.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Stas, unfortunately, like sometimes my heart and my brain fight. My heart says, yeah, if that happened, there'd definitely be a fight and it would be a game changer that would save America.
Internet.
Hello?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you
What
hear
is
me?
going on? Yeah, now I
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
Okay, but
I
anyways,
was just admiring your frozen features. You know,
oh,
they
my
were like
frozen features. They're
chi
they're
just
delicate and
chiseled. Yeah.
oh, host Jizzle, thank you. I've been working on myself here. I'm trying to lose weight, trying to get down to 100 kilograms. That's a mission if I can ever do it. But anyways, what I was saying is that in my mind, I know that I don't think that people would rise up, and I think that the people who are sort of represent the what I call the weaker force. The stronger force in American politics seem to be what would be the sort of globalist, woke,
Oh, yeah.
whatever agenda, and the weaker force is this sort of pro-American, we could say potentially multipolar, Trump-ish sort of way of looking at the world is a weaker force, and it is a somewhat disorganized force. And I think if Trump were to meet an unpleasant end, their lack of organization would
Yep,
again
yep,
not
yep.
do it.
Hey,
And yeah,
speaking of which, you know, I used to live in North Carolina, so you seen what the hell happened in the mountains?
in what sense? In North Carolina, something recent happened?
Oh yeah, it's called a hurricane, Category 4 that went up,
Oh,
western Florida, Louisiana, and went straight up into the mountains, into Tennessee, and into the Appalachian Mountains, North Carolina. Basically, about 70 centimeters of rain fell within a day,
man.
and that's on mountains, so it all
Okay.
goes. I-40
Also,
is very large chunks of I-40 are gone.
uh-huh.
Villages and towns are gone. People are talking
Okay.
about, you know, and some of the videos I've seen. I mean, just everything's flattened. Mudslides. Officially, the death toll is like 50 people, but they're talking about thousands are missing. No electricity, no roads, no nothing.
Now, are you bringing this up because it's something like what happened in Louisiana or Hawaii that they're just going to do nothing about it and just sort of let it be?
Oh yeah, because you know, the Tennessee National Guard is being sent to Israel instead of, you know, I don't know, helping
Yeah,
Tennessee
yeah.
because Tennessee was second worst hit. North Carolina, Western North Carolina was worst hit. And Mr. Biden said, "We've given everything we can." Oh, and Zelensky gets another 2.5 billion.
Ah, now I see your reasoning. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's taking care of the peeps.
Yeah, it is yeah, because yeah, this Ukraine war is it's an incredible sinkhole because again, I still don't think it's a major electoral factor, but to an extent I think people are very offended by stuff like this. The whole especially that fire in Hawaii where they gave away
Oh,
then like $700 to everyone
I
is
thought it was
just
around $100 or something like that per person.
I'm pretty sure 700, but it doesn't matter. It was an amount of money
Yeah.
that was insulting and is less than 1% of the value of a house in the United States.
Oh yeah.
So,
Um, $700 for a family. Well, look at East Palestine, Ohio. I lived in East Palestine, Ohio
oh,
back
no kidding.
in 79 or 80. I'm sorry, 80, 81. Oh, yeah, yeah. It was a nice little town. Had two major industries, well, three major industries. My father's engineering company that he worked for, Nash Engineering, they moved to North Carolina. That's how we wound up in North
Mhm.
Carolina. They had a
Yeah.
ceramics factory that moved to China in the 90s,
Hmm.
and agriculture, and now they've got nothing. And I think they were all getting like $1,000 a family or $1,000 a person, something like that,
Yeah.
for having everything you own poisoned, and
Yeah.
probably
Well, yeah.
yourself too if you're living there.
Well, yeah, it's one thing that people sort of also don't understand. It's another reason why someone might want to move to Russia because, on the opposite hand, things are kind of really changing here. Like even some jobs that were kind of, let's just say not well paid are getting more and more well paid. Delivery guys are starting to make good
Oh
money.
yeah.
Like I would just put on my channel as an offer to be a tractor driver for 100,000 to 150,000 rubles a month, and that's like good money for something that might be considered an unskilled laborer.
Hmm.
So, yeah, things are definitely changing. And again, that might be another reason to move to Russia because here, at least there's work. I think the one problem though is a lot of employers and the government haven't opened their eyes to the fact that when Western people come here, the majority of them are sort of Midwestern, middle class people. And if they're a husband and wife, the husband probably works with his hands.
Yep.
And I think that that's something they really need to wake up to. Because whenever I talk to a government sort of official or do some sort of conference or interview about it, they're always like, well, could you get some sort of major business people to come here? I'm like, well, man, a lot of the major business people can still live pretty good lives in a woke nightmare world. Whereas Joe Plumber in the Midwest with his kids cannot survive the woke nightmare. You know what I mean? And what is he going to do when he comes here? He's going to be a plumber
Right.
with a different set of pipes.
Well, yeah. But I mean, honestly speaking, if our officials had half a brain at this point, they'd be in Germany recruiting mass amount of skilled factory labor and engineers,
Yeah.
because we've got so many factories and everything opening up, manufacturing. There are not enough welders. There are not enough people that can work with CNCs. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just not enough people. There's not enough skilled labor. We can't pump them out fast enough. And you've got Volkswagen, I mean, getting ready to lay off 15,000 workers, right?
Yeah.
Their suppliers just laid off another 3,000.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of people they need. Because again, why was that tractor driver position opened for Western people? Because the guys who own the farms, they said that basically everyone who has some sort of machine operator license in Russia, they all join the military because the salary is fantastic, or
Oh yeah.
patriotism, or a combination, and they're gone. There's no one to drive tractors. And they said,
Yeah.
well, then what do you do? Then you could have like some sort of Uzbek migrant laborers who might steal stuff, bail, underperform. And that's why he was like, well, it'd be really nice to get people from the West then to drive the tractor because Western people tend to work harder and they tend to stay at one job for longer and so on and so forth. Like they really want to find someone who can, push that tractor around and deal with some other stuff when the snow's on the ground, for like the next 10 years. That's what they're ideally dreaming of, but who knows? But it's just a
Unless,
very telling
yeah.
example.
And there's less
Yeah.
chances that a Westerner is going to drive that tractor accidentally in a swamp and go, "Oh!"
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There is a lot of let's just say expensive mistakes that come from migrant labor, and also
Yeah.
I just even saw today.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
what politician was it? Hold on, we're gonna get real facts rather than just pulling stuff out of my butt. Hold on, where was the
But butt facts are fun.
no, let's see, which politician was it? It was Mikhail Matveyev in the state Duma.
Okay.
Oh, wait, what was it? That one? No, no, no. It was from Tsargrad TV. They said Vyacheslav Volodin and some other deputies of the state Duma want to increase the fine up to 60 million rubles for any sort of falsification or helping illegal migrants come into the country. And so when you're a farm operator, maybe these guys from Uzbekistan have like their papers in order, or maybe they don't. And if the fine
Yeah.
is going to be 60 million rubles, which in dollars, you take
A
away like
million
two
dollars.
zeros.
No,
So what is
no,
that?
no, no. That's
$60,000?
no,
More,
no, no,
no,
no,
more.
no, no.
$600,000.
That's six hundred
Holy
thousand
crap, that
dollars.
is a
No,
lot of money.
it's like it's what about 58? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, 600,000. Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough
Yeah.
for government
So
work.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
now, so yeah, apparently they're really going to get serious about
Hmm?
migrant labor controls, or if you get caught, your life is over.
Oh
So
yeah.
again, that's another advantage for Western foreigners because when you come here, you're going to come here, you're going to get a temporary residency permit. And in theory, the police should know about that. And in theory, they'll just nod their heads and be like, he's from the West. Yeah, he must have a residency permit. Okay. and go on about their day.
Well,
So
Westerners also, okay, not as much Anglos, but most Westerners also have a tendency to assimilate a hell of a lot faster.
yeah,
And these guys, a lot of the problems with a lot of the guys coming from Central Asia is they want you to assimilate to them.
yeah, yeah.
Doesn't work that way.
No. Well, not
Russians don't
here.
like to assimilate inside of Russia to somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it also even applies to other people because I've seen a lot of conflicts between the Chechens and the Tajiks and the
Oh
Dagestanis and
yeah,
the
yeah.
Tajiks. So they actually it's not just a sort of because people portray it as like an Islam versus Christianity thing.
Oh
It's
no, no,
more
no, no,
like
no, no.
those two countries versus everyone else kind of thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
I've heard it from Dagestanis that I knew that they had big conflicts with guys from Central Asia, and they're like
yeah,
they're not civilized, and and they're all and they're both Muslims. They're both Sunni
yeah.
Muslims. So you think, but no, no, no. It's serious cultural differences.
Well, yeah, and as someone who's been to Dagestan now multiple times, I could say that it is an extremely well organized, very civilized place. In fact, I had a problem when I was on vacation with my daughter with my mortgage, and I
Hmm.
went to Sparebank there, and I've even become kind of like Russia racist. I was like, oh boy, I got to deal with my mortgage, and I'm in Dagestan, and because you think of the funny accents that people have there and some of the stereotypes, ultra professional, got the problem solved, zero problems. They shattered a growing weird sort of Muscovite racist view of the world inside of me. Stereotype destroyed. So
Power to the
yes,
people.
and got my mortgage fixed. That was bad. But anyways,
Especially on
needless to say,
vacation.
don't kids, if you get a mortgage in Russia, don't forget to pay the insurance on it on time. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, yeah. And the insurance is going to cost you because the insurance is probably going to come from the same bank that's giving you the mortgage.
Yeah, well, actually, it doesn't because I've made a lot of double payments, and
Hmm.
so it was $400 a year something the first year, and then after that, it's become something like 160. So it became a lot less because I've been trying my best to do the extra payments and pay down the loan as quick as I can and get away from this damn thing.
That's good.
So
That's very good. So yeah,
yeah,
all you people who just lost everything up in the mountains of North Carolina, well,
yeah.
we've got mountains too. And the government, if you lose all that, they'll build you a new house.
Oh yeah, that is a big difference between Russia and America. Yeah, because even if like if a building in Moscow gets condemned, which is starting to happen, because sort of some of the first like Khrushchev era crappy commie blocks are now expiring, the government has to kind of come in and they sort of make a deal where they're like, okay, we're going to build this building in the same area of Moscow, roughly speaking, build a nice new building and move all the people from the old building into the new building. Of course, they'll sell some new apartments to people and so on and so forth. So yeah, that is a major difference between Russia. If you have some sort of catastrophe, you're covered.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Private insurance goes to hell. You've got the government. They'll still, in fact, when there was in 2010, when there was a lot of fires because it was like 40 degrees for 2 months
yeah,
and no rain, all those little villages that burned down, usually because some idiot's burning trash when there's
yeah,
been no rain for 2 months and it's 40 friggin' degrees outside. Celsius. That's like
yeah, yeah,
almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the Fahrenheit challenge. Um, the government was still coming in and building new houses for the people that had their everything burned.
well, yeah. And that's also why there was some Western disinformation about the new regions of Russia, well, the new old regions, especially Mariupol. They said it's being flooded with Arabs. Putin is bringing in Arabs to take it over. I was like, what does it sound like? Oh, they mean the Muslims from Central Asia are being sent there to sort of work as migrant workers and rebuild it. That's why Mariupol is being rebuilt so fast because it just has these armies of grunt laborers from Central Asia.
Well, it's not just Central Asia. It's just that we ran out of builders because it's so much construction. I was just
Yeah,
in Mariupol again last week, literally
yeah,
last week, toward the weekend, because we went to Kherson to deliver aid. And every time you drive into Mariupol, it's been a couple months, and there's more buildings that have been rebuilt.
yeah.
About a third of the city. Now, this is a city of 250,000 that was totally leveled,
Hmm.
and about a third of it's been restored already in what, a year and a half?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the one thing is Russia's main problem of any problems that it really has to solve is the demographic one. There just aren't enough
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
The demand for especially construction is so much higher than the potential, even though Russia's building a lot of stuff. At least if we can believe statistics, I'd be always a little skeptical about statistics about Russia because they're generally uh based on Western lies, but it would seem that Russia's producing more housing now than during the Khrushchev boom of the 1960s. So there's a lot being built, but I think demand way exceeds the capacity to actually do it. So that's where you get all
Absolutely.
these migrant laborers
Um,
and all that. So
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. We've got like half a minute left, so time flies. We're talking
then
with you.
AmericanVillages.ru,
What? Yes.
AmericanVillages.ru, or find me on Telegram. The Telegram channel is also American Village something. It is, hold on, what's the official name? It is American Villages in Russia official. There you go, on
There you go.
Telegram.
And thank you everyone for joining us. It's always a pleasure. If you have any questions or you want some for Tim, leave the comment in the comment section, and I'll make sure Tim gets it,
All
or he
right.
can
Talk
check
to
it
you later,
himself.
Stas. All the best, man.
All the best. Thank you.